Hello, and welcome to the Center for Parenting Education and the second part of our webcast called Limit Setting for Toddlers. In this article, we will be highlighting how toddlers see the world so that you can have a better appreciation for this unique stage of development, a greater understanding of the typical, albeit challenging behaviors, and be in a stronger position to set appropriate limits. The first concept to understand about toddlers is that they lie, not in the sense of not telling the truth, which is also sometimes true because they have trouble separating fantasy from reality, but rather that they are born lacking in judgment, being impulsive, and being egocentric. Toddlers do not have the ability to keep themselves safe because they lack judgment, are impulsive, and are egocentric. Therefore, they cannot help but run after a ball as it goes into the street, or throw a toy at another child when angry. It's up to us as parents to keep them safe through vigilance and limit setting. It's unfair and unwise to expect a toddler to have good judgment, be able to curb their impulses, and to consider others' feelings. In fact, to many parents' surprise, true empathy does not develop until the elementary school years. Some children show some consideration in some situations earlier. This is a gift, not the norm. The next item we will consider are what factors make each unique child. As our children become little people, we have ever-increasing glimpses into who they're going to be. Understanding their unique makeups can help parents be more tolerant and patient. The 5 parts of every unique child are temperament, maturity, tasks, ages and stages, and situational factors.
The first part of the unique child is temperament. Temperament refers to the fact that all children are born into this world with their own individualized blueprints for reacting to the world around them. Based on a 30-year study begun in 1956, temperament explains why some children are very easygoing while others tend to be incredibly challenging for parents. Sometimes you hear of these challenging children called difficult because they have temperamental traits that make them more demanding to parent. Child development research has identified 10 temperamental traits, which are shown on the screen. These traits fall into general categories. About 40% of children are considered happy-go-lucky. These are the kids who are quite adaptable. The parents can switch plans or switch brands of ketchup, and their kids won't notice, won't care, or will be happy for the change of pace. We often joke that these are someone else's kids. Another 15% are considered slow to warm. These kids need to arrive early for a birthday party if they're going to feel comfortable. They may need to sit on the sidelines and observe before they join in an activity. They may need to look at and even play with a new article of clothing before they want to wear it, even if they loved it in the store. Another 10% of children are considered challenging or spirited. These are the ones who let you know if their socks aren't on just right, and they let you know if a loud, strong voice. These kids tend to go through life with gusto and can be more challenging to raise and can leave their parents wondering, what did I do to cause this behavior? The answer, of course, is you didn't do anything. It's how your child is wired. You can learn ways to help manage your child's behavior, but you can't change who your child is. Raising toddlers is difficult even with an easy child, but raising spirited children or a child who is at the far extreme for any of the temperament traits requires a lot more effort and thought, many times leaving parents feeling frustrated and doubtful about the effectiveness of their skills as parents. Parents' temperament could also be a factor. If a parent prefers to sit quietly and read a book, they may find a highly active child to be trying and exhausting. Conversely, if a parent is an outgoing, on-the-go type person, they may feel trapped by a child who prefers routine and the security of home. This phenomenon is known as goodness of fit. Sometimes having opposite traits, as we just illustrated, can cause problems. Sometimes it can be difficult to understand why your child reacts as he or she does when it is so foreign to your way of thinking. Sometimes being similar can cause problems, as both parent and child can react, often strongly, to the same triggers. At times we don't have patience for what we consider to be our own weaknesses. For example, a parent who remembers sadly her own difficulties making friends when she was little may try to push her child into social situations in hopes of avoiding the same pain for her child.
The second part of the unique child is maturity. Sometimes people will say that my child is mature or immature. In reality, children grow in maturity in different areas. With toddlers, there's a tendency for people to assume that a taller, more physically mature child will also be advanced in all areas. There may be an expectation that they will be able to sit still longer, follow instructions better, and even have better speech. It's helpful to break down your child's maturity into its subcomponents rather than blanketly labeling your child as mature or immature. So a child may be socially mature in that he's very outgoing and quickly engages other children in play, but he may be less mature emotionally and melt down quickly when upset. Also realize that children often develop in one area at a time. A child who's concentrating on verbal skills may walk or attain other physical skills at a later time. Conversely, a child who's working on physical tasks may be slower in acquiring language. These children may become frustrated when they aren't able to be understood, and often may become aggressive and throw temper tantrums. Remember, they don't have the ability to say, "Can I play with your ball?" In time, toddlers do mature, but every child progresses at his or her own rate. We can't force maturity. We can provide opportunities to practice skills and can provide encouragement to our children that will help them to get there one day.
The third part of the unique child are developmental tasks. In addition to temperament and maturity, children at every age are working on accomplishing certain developmental tasks, those things that people need to do in order to advance the process of their maturity. There are certain ages that have tasks which a child needs to do, but which aren't always fun for the parent. We call these tasks challenging norms. For example, one major task of toddlers is to learn ownership. The way this manifests itself is through a lack of sharing. Toddlers may appear greedy, when in reality it is their growing understanding that they are separate from others and that they have the capacity to possess things. While we don't have to condone our children grabbing items from others or hogging all of the toys, we can show understanding while setting limits. For example, "You want to play with the truck. Can you find something for Susie to play with?" Or, "Justin is playing with the blocks. What can you play with until it is your turn?" Another task of toddlers is learning to separate from their parents. One common way that toddlers exhibit this budding independence is through a never-ending series of no's.
The fourth part of the whole child is called ages and stages. We refer to this as the roller coaster of development because children grow in fits and starts, taking major leaps forward during periods of equilibrium when they are calm and at ease and confident, only to appear to backslide at certain times. These periods of backsliding are called disequilibrium, when children feel less secure and confident, struggle more, and are more at odds with themselves and with the world. Obviously, during periods of stressful disequilibrium, a child is more likely to be demanding, clingy, or less easily satisfied. Knowing this can help parents not to think that their child is developing terrible behavior, but that their developmental process will eventually move them into an easier stage. So let's take a closer look. One of the most widely recognized stages of disequilibrium is referred to as the terrible twos. Most people are aware that having a 2-year-old is almost synonymous with temper tantrums, but as you can see from our roller coaster above, disequilibrium occurs even before the child reaches the age of 2. Starting at around 15 months, parents may notice that their children seem more stressed as their physical and/or language skills are developing at a rapid pace. Many parents will comment that their 18-month-old is going through the terrible twos early. What is really happening is that they have entered a stage of disequilibrium where their behavior is more broken up and out of sorts, and yes, characterized by tantrums. Transition times may prove difficult. As children reach 2 years of age, their behavior typically becomes smoother and calmer, only to take a turn again at age 2.5, when those temper tantrums return and children's behavior is more rigid and demanding, and they may be unable to make up their minds between two choices. This phase is commonly talked about the terrible twos. Children's development continues to cycle about every 6 months. Once again, they enter a phase of equilibrium around 3 years of age, when they tend to be more easygoing and cooperative as a result of their acquiring a little more maturity than they had at 2. When they reach 3.5, disequilibrium returns, and their behavior tends to be more broken up and difficult. This stage can be quite challenging for parents, as it seems that they're experiencing their children's temper tantrums all over again. These cycles continue as children enter equilibrium at age 4 and disequilibrium at age 4.5, when they become more physically, emotionally, and verbally out of bounds. For some parents, these patterns are very clear, particularly if you have a child who is temperamentally more challenging. As we mentioned, they tend to go through life with gusto, and the periods of disequilibrium tend to be exaggerated. With a calmer, less exuberant child, these cycles may be harder to discern. When your child is in a time of disequilibrium, it's usually best not to teach new skills or to raise expectations for behavior. Hold off until the behavior smooths out, usually a few months, when your child's in a better position to assume more responsibility. The only caveat: sometimes when children are in disequilibrium, they are trying to gain more control over themselves and their environment. For some children, they may welcome the opportunity to control their bowels and use the toilet or move to a big boy bed. The key is if the desire is coming from our children rather than being suggested by the parent.
The last part of the unique child are called situational factors, any external factor that causes anxiety or increased stress in the child, such as a new sibling in the home, a divorce, illness, a move, a friend moving. As we said above, when a child is facing increased stress, they may become more demanding, more needy, less able to tolerate normal frustration. At these times, children can use understanding and listening from their parents, who still may have to set limits and say no, but they can do so with kindness and compassion.
Just to review, 5 items are part of our unique child equation and help us to explain why toddlers have a unique way of looking at the world. First off, toddlers must explore. They learn about the world through the senses. They are driven to touch everything and put most things in their mouths.
Toddlers often feel needy and insecure. The use of transitional objects such as blankies or stuffies can help them to soothe themselves.
Toddlers resist rules and transitions and are easily frustrated.
Toddlers dawdle.
Toddlers make messes when they eat. They also resist certain foods, only want to eat the same foods, resist sitting for a meal, or resist eating at all.
Toddlers have an extremely short attention span. This distractibility can actually work in your favor when you have to redirect their behavior.
Toddlers are emotionally unpredictable and uneven.
Toddlers have many fears and anxieties. These can be extraordinarily strong. Some common fears include animals, clowns, drains, strangers, haircuts, water, and the dark.
Toddlers cannot distinguish fact from fantasy. To them, wishes come true, inanimate objects seem alive. They believe that it really can rain cats and dogs.
Toddlers don't understand what we mean, even though they may have a large vocabulary.
Toddlers also have trouble with time sequence. They may say, "I went there tomorrow."
Toddlers don't understand cause and effect, which is in part why they don't have empathy. They don't understand how their hitting another child caused him pain.
They have trouble making choices. Either or doesn't mean both, but it does to them.
They love sameness even to the point of being rigid. Rituals provide a sense of security and safety.
Toddlers are just beginning to develop social skills with age mates.
And toddlers have a sense of humor.
While growing and developing, toddlers are not simply just little adults. They have their own unique way of viewing the world. So, following are our tips for understanding your toddler. First, learn about child development and consider all of the aspects of the unique child. Apply this information to the understanding of your own particular children so that you can respond to them with the necessary limits in a compassionate and kind way. For more information about child development, view our on-demand presentation called Understanding Your Unique Child, and visit our resource library on our website for more articles on the topic. Remember that you are the best expert about your own child, what type of person you want him to become, and what values you want him to have. Remember that toddlerhood is a unique stage that for many children is filled with strong emotions. Let the phrase, "this too shall pass," or "this is just a stage," be your mantra. We can guarantee that your toddler will grow and change. You may or may not like the next stage. We just promise that it will be different. Enjoy the wondrous parts of raising a toddler. Revel in their increasing awareness of the world around them. And finally, view Part 3 of this workshop, which will provide tips for setting limits so that you can keep your toddler safe while maintaining your sanity and sense of humor. We thank you for joining us.